Hello, friends, and welcome to Pathologic, Volume 1, Episode Lucky Number 13. Today we're going to be looking at the genre called Shakashaka, which is one that we have featured in the Chatter newsletter in the past. So you can look at some back issues there if you'd like more puzzles like this one. But today we're going to be solving one I didn't write. So before we dive into that, we need to find out how to play. So let's take a look at the rules. Shakashaka is a shading puzzle, although an unusual one. We will shade a right triangle in some empty cells, each of which occupies exactly half the cell it's in. This is saying that we are never going to fully shade a cell, as we do in many other puzzles of this type. We're instead going to cut the cell in half diagonally and shade half of it. So you can see in this cell here, we have shaded this triangle in the bottom left. Each unshaded area must be rectangular in shape. This is the tough rule to get your head around in this puzzle type, but if you look at the example solution, it is visually pretty clear. Those rectangles in particular may be oriented the typical way, or maybe at a 45-degree angle due to the way we're shading right triangles in these cells. So this is a valid rectangle, this is a valid rectangle, squares are valid rectangles as well. A number in a cell represents how many of the up to 4 cells orthogonally adjacent to the clue contain triangles. So this 0 here is saying that all 4 of the cells orthogonally adjacent, which just means touching horizontally or vertically. How many of those contain triangles? The 0 means none of them. Whereas the 3 in this case means all 3 of these. And you can see in the example solution, the 0 has no touching triangles, and the 3 in this cell, there's a triangle in the bottom right corner, here in the top right corner, here in the top right corner. Those are the rules of Shakashaka. So let's solve a puzzle. Today's Shakashaka puzzle was set by Jovial. Alright, so when we get started on one of these puzzles, as with many, we're going to look at big numbers and little numbers. And the biggest we see here are 2s, but we got some 2s that are in corners. And those are going to be useful to us because there are only 2 possibilities that are adjacent to them. So this 2 needs a shaded cell to the east and to the south. Now, in a regular shading puzzle, we could just shade in that square, but we need to think about which direction does that angle go. And if that diagonal line were on the negative diagonal from the northwest to the southeast, then we'd end up with the bottom here shaded or the top here shaded, either of which would leave us with a 45-degree angle that is not going to make us a rectangle. So we need to split it on the positive diagonal, so it's going to be in the top corner. So with that logic explained, we can apply that same thing to all 7 of the other corners, because they all have that, they're all next to the 2 just like that. So that is done. Okay, so next, what happens when a diagonal line hits a known horizontal or vertical wall? It's going to have to basically bounce at another 45-degree angle away in order to make this into a rectangle. So when this wall comes up like this, we can send it down like that, and we can do that on all of these edges. Again, we have the symmetry of the situation to guide us there. Okay, so now we've got some 1 clues that already have their 1 neighbor that they were given. So in each of these cases, we can mark the other 2 neighbors as unshaded. This puzzle being completely symmetric like this, we're going to basically be able to solve a quarter of it. Let's see, what's next? Okay, so now we've got this diagonal line coming down here that can't go any further because we know this one's unshaded. So this is just like the wall case, really, except instead of bouncing off of a wall, it's bouncing off a known unshaded cell. So this is going to have to bounce this way. And once we have these three corners of the rectangle, we know that we have fully defined it because we can just follow that edge. So we're going to complete that rectangle there, and we're going to mark these other two as unshaded. Now we could do the same thing in the other three, but I'm going to work on this corner to see if there's anything else I can talk about of some logic patterns we can explore. Right here, we've got two unshaded cells that are touching at a corner, and we know that they're not part of the same rectangle because this cell right here is shaded. So they can't actually connect to each other. They've got to be separated, and if either one were to stretch in the direction of this cell, they would try to be connected and we would have a broken shape. So we've got to have a wall basically to the south of this one and to the east of this one, which tells us which direction that triangle goes. Now we've got a triangle bouncing off of unshaded cells just like we had before. And we've got one corner defined of this rectangle that's going to possibly extend further, but it could stop right there. We've got another one of these situations with two unshaded cells that can't be part of the same rectangle. And now this can bounce against this wall, like so. We've got the same situation right here. This is going to be the symmetric situation, but I'll fill this in to see if it gives us anything in the middle. This 2 is complete. We can take care of that corner right there. This bounces against the unshaded region. Okay, so now, excuse me, we have this one bouncing against this wall, just like it did up here. And this rectangle, now this is a slightly larger leap to think about. If this wall of this rectangle were to go further, that's fine in this cell. But you can see that if we were to extend it any further than halfway through this cell, we couldn't clear this edge that comes out this way. We wouldn't have room. And halfway isn't a thing, so we can't go into this cell at all with this wall. So this wall is going to have to turn first, like so. And that is great because now we've got this one bouncing against a wall. And now we have a rectangle coming in from this direction and a corner of a rectangle here. They can't meet. They can't be part of the same shape. So this can't go further. This rectangle here can't extend further. This rectangle here can't extend further. So they're both going to bounce off each other, like so. Let's take care of this little arrow shape before we move on. We have a known unshaded, which could extend here. Same deal here. We've got a rectangle here that could extend to be a domino shape or could end up being a square right there. I don't have a quick lemma to apply here. There might be one, but I can see it in a couple steps. Let's just do the what if on this one. So if this were to stop and become a square, what's going to happen to these two shapes? Neither one can stop because then we'd end up with a 45-degree angle. So they both have to extend. And now they can't be part of the same shape. So we'd need to make a 45-degree angle here to stop them. But then we have a little triangle left over. The interface isn't even allowing me to put the shape in there because it's so obviously wrong. So we're going to back up. And that is a little proof that this can't be a square. There might be, if you know of a nicer way of seeing that, please leave a comment to tell me what I could have said there instead. But this can't be a square, so it's going to have to extend and be at least this long. And in fact, it bounces out against this wall. It has to be exactly that long. Okay, great. So now we probably can just repeat all these things on this side. I'm just going to take a quick look to see if there's anything cool we can do first before replicating all that logic. We got a big region here that could be a square. It could be broken up. Not immediately seeing any other quick deductions. If this were to extend further, it could it still has room to become a rectangle. Yeah, I'm not seeing it. So rather than ponder about that further, I am going to apply these same deductions on this side. So we've got a corner here we can fill in. We have this angle bouncing against that wall, and it can't close early because that would mess this up. It's got to keep on going. Now we've got this 2 is done. Now we've got a corner like so. This rectangle, actually I think I am doing this a different way than I did before, so I might be answering my own question about a better way of handling that scenario. This bounces against the unshaded cells. This bounces against the shaded cell. Now this corner right here can't get any further without running into this big old wall. So it's got to turn early. It's got to bounce against that, and we get another little square here. Now up here we've got this one bouncing against the south wall. Oh, now we've got the arrow pattern from over here that I don't have the handy logic for or short logic for, but we now have proven that this can't be closed off early. It's got to have to keep it ongoing. So we can just apply that deduction right there. We can do the same things in this corner. This bounces. It's got to continue. This 2 is done. We've got another angle right there. We have a corner. It bounces off the unshaded cell. This bounces off of the wall. Bounces off of this wall, bounces off of this wall. We got ourselves another square, and we've also bounded this square right there. This one has to bounce. And we've got an arrow here. This bounces here. We got the arrow here. So those arrows both have the same logic that we saw before. They've got to both continue. And that is all of the cells accounted for, either unshaded or corners. And we've taken care of all of the number clues. So that is how you solve a Shakashaka. Thanks for watching. Remember to like, subscribe, and check out the description below for more free puzzles.